Hi everybody, thanks for joining me on the British Trucking channel. Now you might wonder why I'm laughing, but I've taken that many takes trying to get this right because my words keep getting jumbled up. But, anyway. In this video, we're going to take a look at how new truck drivers can get some driving experience once they first pass their test. It's one of the most difficult times to get a job because you've got no experience. So most job applications out there are asking for a minimum of 2 years driving experience, or you must have experience at driving this type of truck or that type of truck, and it's very difficult to get your first job. So let's look into the view that an employer would have when they advertise for a new driver. Now, employers who have a vacancy for a truck driver will be looking at least 3 factors before considering employing a new driver: experience, risk factor, and availability for work. Okay, let's look at experience. Now, training costs companies thousands of pounds, so it makes obvious sense to advertise for drivers who are already experienced within the job role that they are offering. If a new driver approaches an employer, then there is a good chance that they will not have the experience in fully understanding the process that's needed for their particular job. There's different types of vehicles and they're set up in different ways, and it takes a lot of training. So experienced drivers with different trucks, like a concrete mixer or a tipper truck or a curtain sider, a crane or a high-ab, there's many different trucks out there that truck drivers have to drive, so it's understandable that experience is very important to an employer. Okay, let's look at risk factor. An employer who is employing a new driver without time-served driving experience would be high risk, because there's more likelihood that a new driver may have an accident or may make a mistake that could cause them injury or injury to others around them. Now, the employers will look for a low-risk option first before considering a driver that could be costly to them and possibly cause injury. Okay, let's look at availability. I'm sure many new drivers will be looking at the job sites straight away after obtaining their HGV license, so this is, of course, understandable. Any employer will be reluctant to consider a driver who passed their test a week ago compared to an experienced driver. Now, the reason for this is employers know you are simply looking to get out on the road and you will take almost anything to achieve that goal. Now, from the employer's point of view, they would need to be sure that you are able to fit into their company, their shift patterns, nights out, early mornings, late evenings, as part of their business model. And in many new cases, new drivers haven't had time to think about all these scenarios and may not be available to work some shifts, and they may have children and a wife or a husband or a partner, and they have commitments in their lives. So this is why availability is an important factor for employers. So what can you do to get truck driving experience? Well, after passing your test and obtaining your driver's card, it does make sense to get a job as soon as you can, because the longer that you leave it, the longer you're not behind the wheel of a truck, and the scarier it becomes to get back into a truck if you leave it for too long. Now, advanced training will certainly benefit you. If you have the money to do it, then training such as ADR, Moffat, crane, forklift, different types of training that you can add to your license and add to your CV will help you with an employer when they're considering you whether you'll be good enough for their job role. My 3 tips for landing that first truck driving job would firstly be apply for local truck driving jobs. Now, by applying for jobs locally, this will help you with your application. We already established that availability is a concern for employers, so living close to a company ticks that box to a large degree for the employer, and you will look seriously at drivers who live sort of 3 miles away compared to an application from a driver who lives 25 miles away. it is important that you do not apply for any jobs that are not suitable for you. For example, if you cannot do nights out, then don't apply for a job that says nights out. It's as simple as that. You've got to find a job that actually suits what you're looking for before you make contact with that employer, because you can't start dictating terms to an employer. It's just not the right way to do things. So you need to study the job market carefully and actually look for jobs and single jobs out that you actually want to do. Another thing is, ensure you have a CV with any relevant experience that you may have. Now, an employer might find things useful. For example, you may have done a first aid course, or you may have had a previous employer and had experience in driving large vans or tractors. Now, this can help an employer recognise and go against the risk factor by knowing that you've driven larger vehicles than a car, for example. It shows them that driving is something that you're good at in general, and you haven't come sort of straight from a push bike into a car, into a truck within the last 6 months, so to speak. So, you know, putting down on your CV relevant things to the employer is very important, and try to think of as many as you can that can sway them either way, because there'll be a lot of job applications going in and yours needs to stand out from the rest. If you can tick off that availability because you only live 3 or 4 miles away, then you've already ticked one of the boxes. Now, if you can then show them that you've driven large vans and you know, you've had sort of a year or two's experience of driving large vans, well, that's almost the experience box ticked off, because you've driven something larger than a car. So it's worth really concentrating on those factors and making sure everything on your CV is relevant to the job and will help you out. Secondly, consider agency driving. Now, register with an agency, and not all agencies will accept new drivers, but some will, and it's worth considering to obtain the driving experience you need to apply for jobs. There are many drivers that have driven for an agency and achieved a full-time job through driving for the agency, because a lot of companies use agency drivers, and then if they find a good one, they'll stick with him and say, you know, do you fancy coming on the books full-time? So it's a great way to get into a company, and if you can find agency work local to you and they put you into some local companies, then, you know, it's a good way into the industry. So that's definitely worth considering. Okay, now my third tip and my last tip for this video is go and knock on doors. Go and visit local companies that, well, particularly if you'd like to work for them. You know, you might know some people who already drive for a particular company, and they say, oh, you know, it's a good job, you know, go see if you can get in there. Well, it's no good just looking on the computer to see if any of their job vacancies come up, because a lot of these companies, they advertise internally, so they don't always get out into the job market. So, you know, go and knock on the door. Go and ask to see the transport manager. Tell them that you've passed your test recently, but you're keen. You only live so far down the road. Tick that one box. Give them as much details as you can about yourself. You know, if you've driven any large vehicles such as tractors or vans or anything like that, it does help. If you've had any experience working even in a warehouse or something like that, it's to do with the same industry. So try to get as much information together before you go and knock on the doors, so that you've got something to tell the transport manager, and try and tick a few of them boxes to help yourself. Now, I think knocking on doors is actually a very, very good method of gaining trust by an employer, because they know you're keen and it could open doors for you. So it's worth investigating. Okay, so that's it for this video. Short and sweet, I know, but we've looked at what the employers sort of what they are asking of you, and if you can tick some of them boxes, brilliant, do that. and I hope you get a job very soon, and we will see you in the next video. And don't forget, hit that subscribe button or give the video a like if you liked it, and head over to the British Trucking website, and there's some more articles on there that might help you out, especially if you're a new driver. And there's also some great trucking products for truck drivers, so go and check them out too. See you next time. Bye. To get truck driving experience once you first passed your tongue twister. All the jobs that are advertised out there are all stating minimum of 3, minimum of a lot of bollocks. Fuck off. Tourette's, fuck off. Oh dear. Hi everybody, thank you for joining me on the British Trucking channel. Channel. In this video, we're going to take a look at how to get truck driving experience once you've passed your first You can't be a fucking first one, you can only fucking pass it once, for fuck's sake, to get your first job. So we're going to look at three factors. We're not even going to fucking look at that because I'm fucking talking bollocks. Okay, so what can you do to get truck driving experience? Stop waving your hands, Dave, because you've already been bollocked in the comments for doing it.